I'll be happy instead of Sarah. I'll take over your wedding.
Sorry, I don't quite understand what you mean. My best friend, who mocked me for being a plain woman, robbed my fiance and even tried to steal my wedding? But my best friend turns pale at my word. And who might you be? My name is Sarah. I am the bride-to-be, with my long-dreamed wedding just around the corner. I always wanted to get married in my 20s during my student days, but I realized in my early 20s that finding a life partner was not easy. It was extremely busy to search for love while continuing my career, but finally, I met my soulmate. Now, I am on top of the world. Today, I have a reunion with a high school friend after a long time.
Sorry to keep you waiting. It's been a while. How have you been?
I've been good. It's nice to see you. You look well, Karen. Karen, whom I haven't seen for about a year, is still beautiful.
Sarah, you rushed over, didn't you? Your hair is a mess.
Karen said with a laugh as she fixed my hair. She's always been kind, covering for me whenever I slipped up. Karen, you're still as beautiful as ever. You're the most beautiful woman.
Haha, you too, Sarah. How's work going?
Karen is an editor for a fashion magazine, a glamorous job. I, on the other hand, work in office administration for a small company. I am leaving the company soon to get married. Actually, I'm getting married.
What, Sarah, you had someone?
Her reaction was unexpected, but not surprising. Since we never talked about love life before, it's the first time we're talking about this, but yay, I've been dating someone for a year.
Really? You should have told me. What's he like?
Karen, while pouting, was very interested in my fiancé. He's too good for me, really kind, and being with him makes me very happy. One reason I never talked about my love life with Karen is she seemed uninterested in others' romance. Even now, she looked out the window, seemingly bored, despite having asked.
Well, but you know, a guy who's just nice won't cut it. He needs to be able to work well. Are you going to continue working?
I'm quitting at the end of this month. He wants me to stop full-time work. Karen suddenly leaned in as I said that.
What? That's so selfish. Are you sure? Does this guy have the means to support you both? You realize living together costs twice as much, right?
I mentioned that my fiancé owns an apartment and that we would live there after getting married because she seemed worried. He's a young executive at a major company. It's safe to say he's financially reliable. I've never been much into my job. When he suggested me to be a stay-at-home maker, I was secretly thrilled. Explaining everything made Karen look even more disinterested and said, "What's that, bragging? I'm feeling down. Let's call it a day," and suddenly stood up to leave. Left behind, all I could do was watch Karen's retreating figure in a daze.
Welcome back. You went out with your friend, right? Did you have fun?
When I got home, my fiancé, David, had already returned. Noticing my downcast face, he peered worriedly at me. What happened? It seems I accidentally upset my friend without realizing it. David made coffee, and as I explained the situation, he said, "Maybe this girl, Karen, is just jealous of you, Sarah." That would be the natural conclusion, but Karen is much prettier by far.
I wonder, do friends really get seriously jealous over love stories? I don't want to speak ill of your friend, but I don't have the best impression of her. Normally, people are happy to hear about their friends' good news, especially if it's about something joyful.
I was torn between agreeing with David and not wanting to believe it. I'll see her one more time. David said kindly, "That's good. And if something unpleasant happens, come and talk to me. I'm on your side, Sarah." I love this about him. If I can't reconcile with Karen, then next time we meet, I'll have to end this relationship. I can't keep up with someone who speaks ill of my dear one. Deciding this, I sent Karen a message to arrange our next meeting.
Sorry I was late. I apologize for leaving early last time.
A week later, Karen immediately apologized for the previous day's incident when we saw again. "No, I'm sorry too for being late and talking about things."
Sarah, it's not your fault. I was feeling a bit unwell that day and wanted to go home. I'm really sorry.
Relieved that we reconciled, I let out a sigh of relief.
Tell me about your husband, Sarah. He's kind, isn't he?
Yes, he secretly booked the wedding venue I've always dreamt of. I was so moved I cried. Karen exaggeratedly cheered. Wow. We got excited talking about cliched things like wedding dates and rings.
Hey, is he handsome? Show me his picture.
Karen asked with a grin. Well, he's a bit older, but I think he's handsome. He's tall too. Do I have a picture? Realizing I hadn't taken many photos, I scrolled through my phone's camera roll, which was full of food pictures and no people. Well, oh, he was interviewed in a magazine once. Maybe there's an article online. David contacted me as soon as I tried to search. Oh, sorry. I need to take this call.
Sure, take your time.
Karen said as I stepped outside to talk to David, who had left work early feeling unwell. Sorry, Karen. My boyfriend is feeling a bit sick. I feel terrible, but can I go home now?
Of course, don't worry about it. Go take care of him.
Karen said with a smile, sending me off. I never got to show her his picture. Well, I'll introduce him eventually. For now, I need to focus on David waiting at home. Though I was worried when he called, David just had a cold onset and recovered after a couple of days. I sent an apology message to Karen soon after, but she hasn't replied yet. I'm a bit concerned, but she's probably just busy with work. I have a wedding meeting coming up this weekend. There's so much to decide before then. Life's milestones are hectic. Eventually, I forgot about the lack of response from Karen. And on the weekend, as soon as we arrived at the venue, the planner approached us with a worried look. There was a message that the wedding and guests remain the same, but the bride has changed. Such harassment happens rarely, but they managed to handle it, concerned something had happened to me. The person didn't give a name, just mentioned she would be the new bride. After discussing precautions for future pranks, we finished planning the ceremony details by midday. Having lunch at a cafe, David looked at me worriedly.
Sarah, be careful for a while. The prankster might be someone close to us.
Okay, I understand. And you take care too, David. You've just recovered from your cold. David gave a wry smile and said, I'll be careful. I was a bit worried about our upcoming wedding, but at that time, it seemed like no big deal. I was busy with preparations, like sending out invitations, but recently, David has been coming home late. I tried to talk to him whenever he was free because we had decisions to make together, but he seemed too tired to respond much. Is this what they call prenuptial doubts? Maybe I should take a break. Just then, I saw a message from Karen on my phone. And now, what perfect timing. She asked if we could see, so I immediately replied, sure, and started getting ready.
Hi, Sarah. Long time no see. Sorry, all of a sudden. I was nearby and thought maybe we could grab some tea.
I've been wanting to see you too. I've been so busy. I really needed a break. Thanks for asking. She sighed, phew, and took a sip of her tea. Karen looked at me and said,
You seem tired. If you want, I'm here to talk.
I hesitated to vent about wedding stuff, thinking it might come off as bragging, then said, Well, David has been busy lately.
Ahaha, is that so?
I was about to say, I keep crossing paths with him, when suddenly Karen burst out laughing, startling me into silence.
I'm sorry, he's probably just really busy, right? Maybe you shouldn't nag him too much.
She said with a smirk, but I didn't recall being naggy with David. Yo, he seems tired, so I've been doing what I can on my own. But there are things we need to decide together.
Well, you want a nice wedding, right? But you know, there's a lifestyle that fits each of us. Are you going to keep nagging your husband and end up alone? Maybe you'd be better off in an apartment rather than a fancy condo. I mean, there's neighborhood interaction in condos, right? I'd be shocked if someone like you lived next to me in a luxurious condo. Like, wow, she's so plain.
I was overwhelmed by her words, but realized I was being mocked. That's horrible. Why would you say that?
Well, it's the truth. You've always been plain and unremarkable. And now that you've found someone and can lead a good life, you quit your job and boast about it.
I opened my mouth to argue back, but Karen looked annoyed.
Forget it. I have never thought of you as my friend since I was a student. I just hung out with you because it made me stand out. David would probably be happier with me than with someone as plain as you. Anyway, I'm leaving. Enjoy your life.
After Karen left, I was too stunned to move, feeling like I'd been attacked, too shocked to cry. I sensed she knew too much about David. Was his late return because he was meeting with Karen? The uneasy feeling lingered. I was scared to go home and face David. How long had I been sitting there? When the ring of my phone jolted me back to reality,
Sarah, where are you?
I blurted out, but hearing David's worried voice almost made me cry. Sorry, I'll be home soon. I was at the cafe with Karen.
I'll come and get you. It's dark outside. Stay there.
David said, sounding more caring than usual. I waited as he told me, and he ran to pick me up.
Sarah, what happened? Are you okay?
It's nothing. I think Karen doesn't like me anymore. I was so surprised. Time just flew by. Sorry for worrying you. David stroked my head and said,
I'm sorry for being so busy lately. I've wrapped up a big part of my work today. Let's go home and talk.
David led me home and I made a cup of hot coffee. I was colder than I realized. And David must have been too. Thanks for coming to get me, I finally said, having not yet thanked him for coming.
You sounded so down. I was worried. Can you tell me what happened with Karen?
I slowly recounted what Karen said, and David looked puzzled.
Karen, I haven't met her, have I?
No, I don't think so. Seeing David's baffled reaction made me feel silly for suspecting him of having an affair with Karen. Then David shared something I had completely forgotten about.
Actually, I didn't want to worry you, but prank calls to the venue have continued.
I was surprised both at myself for nearly forgetting and at the fact that the calls were still happening.
So, I'm thinking we should move the wedding up by a week.
Due to the frequent calls, the venue suggested rescheduling. They would handle it as a new booking, so the prankster wouldn't know and couldn't cause any more trouble. Apparently, the caller had been giving detailed instructions for the guests and the ceremony, which the venue couldn't keep up with.
The paperwork is already done, and the invitations have been changed. I'm sorry for not consulting you. I've been coming home late because I've been trying to wrap up work early.
No, I appreciate that you were thinking of me. Thank you. David smiled warmly and said, "Of course." We spent the available time planning the wedding, and soon the day arrived. The ceremony at the venue we dreamed of was wonderful and memorable. I can truly say I'm happy to be married to David. After the wedding, we left for a 1-month honeymoon. Our honeymoon is our dream trip to Europe. One morning, about a week in, while we were enjoying breakfast in our hotel, the phone rang.
Sarah, your phone is ringing.
It's from Karen. Why is she calling? I hadn't contacted her since our fallout, wondering why she would reach out now. I answered it, feeling strong because I wasn't alone and not in the USA. "Hello, Bo, a video call?"
Hey Sarah, aren't you late?
On the screen, Karen appeared in a wedding dress.
It's not funny for the bride to be late. Or did you realize and run away? I'm all set here.
What is she talking about? I couldn't process fast enough to respond.
The dream venue, the dream wedding, and then living in a condo. You're getting what you deserve for living beyond your means, right? Well, I'll be happy in your place. It must hurt, but you can still come, you know.
Despite the hurtful words she seemed sure would affect me, I knew I had to clarify. "Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not in the USA right now. I can't come there." Karen looked shocked.
Where are you? Why aren't you in the USA? Today is your wedding, right?
Actually, our wedding was last week, and now we're on our honeymoon in Europe. What are you doing, Karen? What do you mean by taking my place? It started to make sense. Maybe Karen was the one making the calls to the venue, intending to take over the wedding I was supposed to have. David, listening next to me, seemed to realize the same thing, watching the screen with a stern expression.
No, this makes no sense. You're on a honeymoon alone. Pretending to have a partner is just sad, especially when the groom is here.
Karen said, turning the camera to show a man beside her. I struggled for words but could only ask one thing. "Well, who is he?" Karen froze with a smile.
What? That's your guy, right? Have you lost your mind?
But the man was a stranger to me. What's going on here? I looked at David in confusion, and he was staring at the screen with wide eyes.
John, what are you doing?
Oh, boss, good evening. Isn't today your wedding day?
Apparently, John and David know each other. David, with a look of realization, asked me to let him handle it. I quickly agreed, realizing I couldn't sort this out myself.
Hello, Karen. I'm David, Sarah's husband.
Just saying that turned Karen's face pale.
You mistook John for Sarah's husband by mistaking me for John. I don't know how you got that idea.
No, that's a lie. I saw the name on Sarah's phone, and I checked a photo from the magazine interview. You're engaged, right? That's what you said. You kept bothering me about it.
It seemed she had sneaked a look before but must not have seen clearly. She confused John for David, and the photo in the article as well. Even with David beside me, making it clear she was mistaken, she confronted John, blurting out incredulous things.
What? Engaged? You mean married, right? Yes, I have a wife.
What? Are you kidding, John? You're married.
Who's a crazy one here, trying to marry a married man?
Karen, it seems you were trying to trap Sarah, but John, whom you mistook for me, was fired for infidelity.
This time, I was the one surprised and turned to look at David. It turned out John was a former colleague at David's company who had been relocated after his affair was discovered a year ago and then forced to resign after repeating his misconduct. However, he himself wasn't convinced and became a nuisance, loitering around the company and bothering the employees. David gave Karen the final blow as she stared at John, unable to accept the wrong person.
John's wife is used to handling these situations. I think you can expect a formal notice for the evidence of infidelity.
Karen glared at John, then at us. David moved the phone to shield me from her stare.
It really annoys me that you alone get to be happy, being so plain compared to me.
Actually, Sarah is far better than you.
David retorted, making Karen furious.
A formal notice. I don't care about compensation.
Karen, I think your boss will be informed too.
Karen, who had remained defiant, finally turned pale. If the company is notified, everyone will know of the affair, leading possibly to demotion or forced resignation.
Please don't contact Sarah again. If you do, we will report it to the police. And don't even think about visiting.
This screen showed a chaotic scene. John trying to appease a fuming Karen in her wedding dress, who remained silent and downcast. Unbothered, David ended the call.
The wedding costs will probably fall on Karen since John can't afford it.
He remarked, checking my reaction. I probably won't see Karen again. I felt neither sadness nor pity for her. Thanks, David.
It's okay. What are we going to do today after this? Spend time at the hotel.
The bond with Karen had already been severed at the cafe. There was no need to ruin our honeymoon over someone who harbored malice against me. I decided to enjoy the rest of my honeymoon, along with my sweet husband who makes me happy.